The world is accelerating. The science fiction of yesterday is rapidly becoming the science fiction of right now. How do we withstand the tectonic shifts in the world around us? How does a society thrive when the world economy is undergoing constant disruption? How do we continue to learn when information is moving at the speed of light?
Socioeconomics, a discipline that studies how economic activity interrelated with social behavior and social progress of a community. This discipline shows how the economy is impacted by how its social counterpart acts. In this video, we are going to compare the socioeconomics in terms of employment, income level, healthcare, social service, family institution, and education in socialist countries and Islamic economic countries. Socialist economic systems have been adopted in few countries for an extended period of time. Countries that adopt the system for their governance mainly Cuba, China, Mongolia, North Korea, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. Islamic economic system, on the other hand, is adopted in Malaysia, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi, Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, Pakistan, and many more. In fact, Malaysia ranked first among 81 countries and regions in the Global Islamic Economic Indicator as it championed the development of Islamic finance industry and halal industry. Socialism and Islamic economics both fight for social justice. However, they differ in so many ways. So, what are the differences of these two economic systems? Contrary to the socialism theory that was co-founded by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, Islamic economics is not just a theory that was co-founded by a scholar. Islamic economics has a firm foundation in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah SAW. Even before the Islamic economic system was put into practice, during the Makkah period, the Quran and the Sunnah already dealt with some aspects of the system. For instance, in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 39, Allah SWT prohibits riba, and Allah SWT outlines the obligations of paying zakat.
آتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله.
Secondly, government in the socialist economy is a central authority for resource allocation and wealth distribution. Meanwhile, in the Islamic economy, the government acts as a part of the integrated economic system. The government has a body of shura that will do consultation among related parties in making a decision. Rather than a centralized system, they play the role of a planner, regulator, and the supervisor of the system. Next, in the context of economics agent, socialist economics regard man as an economic man that aims to maximize his own utility. Meanwhile, in the Islamic economics, man is regarded as Islamic man that uplifts the value of humankind. The concept of this economic man is quite limited, which restricts the man just up to this materialistic world. However, an Islamic man has a quite wide horizon. He does not see the life just for this world, but hereafter also, which will be a real and long-lasting life. Lastly, socialism's primary market mechanism is government control. However, Islamic economics let the market stimulate economic growth. In conclusion, socialist economic system and Islamic economic systems reveal contrasting approaches to economic governance. While socialism emphasizes government control, Islamic economic system upholds the religious principles and integrates it in the creation of the system.
Employment is the state when someone is doing something that he wants to do and earns something in return, which is wage or salary. By understanding the definition of employment, we can now talk about the employment issue that is discussed in Islamic economics and socialist economics. There is an employment issue that can be discussed, which is gender inequality problems. From an Islamic standpoint, all the hard work is merely to fulfilling the spiritual responsibilities, as it is our duty as human beings in this world to work as long as we are capable of doing so mentally or physically. Let's discuss the problem with employment, which is gender inequality. This issue has been debated since a long time ago because some businesses are unfair and discriminate against some individuals due to differences in skin tone, gender, and religion. The most crucial form of discrimination is against women because of the persistent belief that they are weak and should be housewives. In Islamic perspective, discrimination on the basis of socio-economic status and class is forbidden. The prohibition of discrimination has been stated in the Quran, Surah Al-Imran, Ayah 195, and also mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 124. In socialist economics, they made an effort to get more women into the economy and the workforce. Furthermore, the government there believed that women's economic independence was the precondition for women's equality, even though numerous scholars suggest that the need for women labor was far more important. As a result, nowadays we can see that there is an increase in the number of women in the workforce. In one research, it was said that a socialist country, Germany, was split into two parts, East and West Germany. East Germany concentrated on policies that supported women qualified employment, while West Germany practiced the system in which women were either forced into part-time work after a prolonged break or stayed at home after giving birth. In conclusion, the gender inequality issue is a problem that has been debated for a long time. In Islamic perspective, discrimination based on socio-economic status and social class is forbidden, while in the socialist economics, efforts have been made to increase women's participation in the workforce. However, there is still evidence of gender inequality in socialist countries in the 1960s, such as Germany.
Socioeconomic is interrelated with income level by looking at the impacts of satisfaction and motivation to work, together with how income is distributed. Income inequality is defined as how unevenly income is distributed throughout the population, and it is not the same as wealth inequality. The issue of inequality of income distribution has arisen all over the world, including advanced, developing, and poor countries. Socioeconomic is interrelated with income level because people live based on their income to purchase and consume products. Positive impact that can be seen clearly is in Islamic countries, those with higher income tend to do charity and give sadaqah or wakaf. However, in socialist countries, their income is equally distributed as their government controls everything, make the gap between the rich and poor slightly different. Hence, the consequence is the virtue of people in both countries being taken care of. In spite of that, inequality income distribution has its negative impacts such as social instability and political conflict. This will lead to high corruption of leaders, which will affect others and their virtue. The poor begin to lose their framework for social comparisons when the gap between the poor and the rich becomes substantial. Besides, increasing immoral acts because of inequality income distribution. Those who have lower income tend to commit crime in order to survive, like robbery and stealing. This all happens because they need to survive with little income and high price of products, or known as inflation. However, the number of crimes in both Islamic and socialist countries are low because of the law implemented and practiced by their government. In brief, inequality income distribution has its positive and negative impacts towards socio-economic development, regardless in Islamic or socialist countries. The issue of inequality income distribution must be combated by eliminating discrimination, unfair taxation, and more to ensure justice and well-being of everyone.
Economists often emphasize social justice and the well-being of the community. Healthcare and social services are considered essential components of the just society. There is often a combination of private charitable initiatives to provide healthcare with an emphasis on solidarity and community support. On the other hand, socialist economies typically have a centralized approach to healthcare and social services.
The state plays a significant role in providing these services, aiming for equal access and minimizing socio-economic disparities. Socialist systems usually prioritize universal healthcare, attempting to ensure that all citizens have access to essential service regardless of their financial status.
The impact on human development, indices, and overall quality of life can vary. In Islamic economies, the emphasis on community support can contribute to a strong sense of social cohesion.
However, their effectiveness may depend on the level of economic development and the implementation of social welfare programs.
In socialist economies, the centralized approach can result in more equal access to healthcare and social services, potentially leading to improved human development indices. However, challenges such as bureaucratic inefficiencies or resource allocation issues may also arise. Ultimately, the successes of these systems in enhancing human development and quality of life depends on their implementation, adaptability, and the broader economic and social context. Both approaches aim to address the well-being of their populations, like through different mechanisms. Thank you.
Family institutions are one of the key points that determines how a country develops their socio-economic activity. In other words, the way a family educates their children is the major factor influencing socio-economic development. Family can be defined as a group of two or more persons related by birth, marriage, or adoption who live together under the same roof. From overall researches that I've made from the past few months, I found out that the key differences between these two economic systems rely on its worldview. Worldview refers to the cluster of beliefs a person holds about the most significant concepts of life, such as God, the cosmos, knowledge, values, man, and history. In Islamic economic, man is viewed as Khalifah, vicegerent on earth, and Abdu, slave of God. Allah SWT said in the Quran, "And remember when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to create a vicegerent on earth." Al-Baqarah verse 30. This objective requires man to establish Islam as a way of life and to manage this world based on Islamic way. Meanwhile, socialism is a socio-economic and political ideology that envisions a society where the means of production, such as factories and businesses, are collectively owned or controlled by the community rather than by private individuals or corporations. This collective ownership aims to address economic inequalities by redistributing wealth and resources more equitably. Socialists argue for a system that prioritizes the well-being of all members of society, emphasizing the provision of essential services like healthcare, education, and housing as fundamental rights. Secondly, the differences between these two economic systems is that the objective and aim in life. Objectiveness is a vital element in life as it will guide us to the right path. As in Islamic economy, a man has to achieve al-falah, which can be defined as the ultimate success for gaining the pleasure of Allah. Allah SWT said in the Quran, "But seek with that Allah has bestowed on you the home of the hereafter, and forget not your portion of legal enjoyment in this world." Al-Qasas verse 77. Imam Al-Ghazali has pointed to 4 key elements that need to be taken into practice in order to achieve success in this world and the hereafter, which is firstly the provision of the self and soul, and the second is the provision of the body, the third provision of the external conditions, and lastly the provision of divine guidance and blessing. The primary aim of socialism is to create a society that emphasizes economic and social equality. Socialists seek to address class disparities by advocating for collective ownership or control of the means of productions. The overarching goal is to establish a system where wealth and resources are distributed more equitably, ensuring that all members of society have access to essential services and opportunities. Socialists often prioritize the well-being of the community over individual accumulation of wealth, aiming to create a more just and inclusive society where everyone has a fair chance to thrive.
Education as a system is a funnel that is being used to allocate human resources, which is intellectual individual, into a particular specialization, which is task-oriented skills. This system separates people based on their own core values, paired with coordinated specific ways of exercising skills to ensure that when they have come out from the system, they will still retain their specialized skill and knowledge. Education by definition refers to the process of acquaintance and alternative development that are required in building the value of individual human and community based on a certain objective. To ensure that the intended objectives are fulfilled, three elements, educators, learners, and environment must be bound together in an active connection and interaction with each other. Islamic economic countries views the education as a system where the people in it, mainly the students, will develop their own self-core, not just physical values, but also intellect, mental, emotion, and the most important, spiritual values by using Quran and Hadith as the base guideline, which in the end will bring out taqwa, or in layman term, self-consciousness towards Allah. As the Islamic education system takes the spirituality as the incentive value, we can see how Islam grasps the holistic and comprehensive development in human to be a realistic and intellectual creation that connects the relationship between man and Allah, man and man, and man and universe, with a justice, responsible administration, and ownership. As an additional keynote, Islamic economics views man as physical and spiritual being that has been chosen as the vicegerent of Allah. This vicegerency aspect asks the Islamic man to contribute, manage, and distribute the economical resources equitably to achieve success in the world and hereafter. On the other hand, socialist economic countries would infer that education is a tool to reconstruct the society that uses two approaches consisting of participation in struggle and also structured and organized instruction or syllabus that should be taught in school and outside school for a more varied and dynamic learning processes. Thus, education under socialist economic influence is seen as one of the major society initiatives that could bring collective benefit and not on particular individuals. In relation to the economical view, social benefit itself, the government has to plan on how to boost the economic inputs development that will enter into the industry and the market itself. Skills or talents that have been shaped by the government based on societal requirement will most likely to increase productivity and income level in the country's economy. Thus, when wealth distribution equality comes into the picture, more and more income can be divided among the society members, indirectly increasing the economic well-being for each individual and the people as a whole unit. In other simple analogy, it is like how one can receive a larger slice of income where the cake size grows despite it is being divided with the same amount of people. When we talk about main objective of education, Islamic education aims to bring out a balanced human. But what does balance mean? By definition, balanced human is an individual that applied the core value in Islamic education, which is the physical being, intellect, mental, emotion, and spirituality when interacting with Allah, mankind, himself, and the universe with all of its content. In contrast, a socialist economic education's goals is meant to satisfy the value of socialism itself, which is through expansion of access education and theoretical practices from various methods in education. All society members will have some knowledge and experience. They can work together, contributing back more benefits for each of them. Socialist economic countries, however, still fails to develop the spirituality in the people, as the very pedagogy itself rejects spirituality and faith as one of the elements that needed nourishment. Education as a socio-economic element in Islamic economic countries has the view that man is a spiritual and physical creation that needs guidance, based on the worldview set in the divine revelation and prophetic narrations to reach the true success in this world and hereafter, or falah. While the socialist economic countries viewed education as one of the socio-economic tools to reconstruct and build society aiming towards well-being and economic growth.
In conclusion, both Islamic and socialist economic models approach the very paradigm of socio-economic development through different methodologies including governance, administration, economical employment, income level, healthcare provisions, family institution, and education. Under the same socio-economic components, these methodologies were divided into two spectrums of ultimate aim. Islamic economy implied those components to reach and attain equilibrium both in the world and akhirah, comprising physical, spiritual, emotion, mental and intellectual well-being, and also to attain Allah's pleasure. Being said by the principles in the Islamic economy itself, the ultimate goal is to reach falah or success in both worldly affairs and also the next life affairs. However, socialist economy viewed the elements as a mold to shape the society while putting in the equality essence in them as their goal is to attain holistic social well-being. From these comparisons, Islamic economy has more comprehensive and holistic measures to cater to every nation's root problem rather than using socialist economy that ignores one of the human aspects as mentioned earlier, while socialist economy lacks in fulfilling the whole needs of its people under it as the spiritual element is omitted.